From lead acid to sodium batteries and 5 or 6 different lithium types, the market is flooded with all kinds of off-grid solar batteries made by a ton of different brand names from overseas. It's hard to know what direction to go. I've been around the block with off-grid solar power for 25 years, and experience has taught me that 90% of your problems will be battery related. At least that's the way it has been, but I want to change that. Now, I'm kind of old school when it comes to keeping the lights on for my family, and for my battery upgrade, I needed the simplest system that's the easiest to set up and the most reliable, but for the best price. This is not a sponsored video, and we bought everything ourselves, so let me show you how I picked our ultimate batteries for the money and which one fits the bill for us.
The Ready Life, into the country.
Hey, I'm Nick, and welcome to The Ready Life. We've lived off-grid for 25 years and helped thousands of folks gain independence from the systems that control their water, food, heat, and power. Now, I've used and recommended Forklift batteries for years. If you're not familiar with Forklift batteries, they're the biggest, most rugged, flooded lead-acid batteries available. If you size them right and treat them well, they can last 10 or 15 years and handle as many as 2,500 or even 3,000 cycles. When I say cycles, I'm talking about a battery that's 100% full, then you discharge it to, say, 50%, and then you charge it back up. That would be one cycle. And each time you cycle a battery, it puts a bit of wear and tear on it. And until lately, forklift batteries were unbeatable when you factor out the lifetime cost. So we've been really happy with them. But the cost has been going up. And let's be honest, they're heavy and bulky. They require a battery box and a vent to get rid of the explosive hydrogen gas that they release. They charge inefficiently on cloudy days. If you want them to last, you can't use more than 50% of their capacity on a regular basis. They need to be fully recharged every several days. They need to be equalized periodically. And perhaps the biggest sticking point is they require maintenance in the form of watering and cleaning terminals. Sure, you could go with a sealed lead-acid battery to eliminate the maintenance and the venting of gases, but they're still heavy and bulky and inefficient, and they can get really pricey. That's where lithium batteries come in. I could see the advantages of lithium years ago, but they were just so fabulously expensive that I couldn't justify it. And they also had some kinks to get worked out in the early years. When I say kinks, I'm talking about everything from issues with battery management systems to fire hazards from volatile variations like NMC or NCA batteries. But lithium iron phosphate combines most of the benefits with a stable, safe chemistry. And since it's cheaper to produce than other lithium types, we've seen the prices go down. And that's what I was waiting for: safe, reliable, reputable batteries at a similar price to my forklift batteries. So here's why I'm switching to lithium iron phosphate. They're maintenance-free, they don't release gases that need to be vented, therefore they don't even need a battery box. They can accept low-level charges efficiently, even on cloudy days. They don't lose much, if any, capacity when they're cold. You can regularly use 80% of the battery's capacity or more. You get 6,000 cycles or more with the right batteries. And even when looking at calendar aging or the effective time on lithium, you can expect at least 15, if not 20 years or more. You can charge them at a faster rate, which means you can handle a larger solar array, or if you're using a backup generator, you can have less generator runtime. They're lighter, more compact, easier to install. And now with the batteries I went with, the lifetime cost is actually lower than the old forklift batteries. And that's why we're making the switch. And while setting up lithium batteries is very similar to other batteries you may have used, there are some important differences. Each individual lithium battery is already set up to deliver your end voltage of 12, 24, or 48 volts nominally. 48 would be the most popular. This is very different than with lead acid. With lead acid, when you connect lead acid batteries together, each battery is a lower voltage, like 6 volts, or in this case 2 volts, and you wire them together in a special way called in series that makes the voltage multiply. So it would take a minimum of 8 6-volt batteries, for instance, to make 48 volts. And if you needed more capacity than those 8, you would wire an additional series string of 8 batteries together, and then you'd connect both of those 48-volt strings together in parallel, where the capacity doubles but the voltage stays the same. That's how it works with lead-acid batteries. But with lithium batteries, the individual voltage of each individual battery is already where it needs to be. In this case, it's a 48-volt system nominally, so the battery voltage is somewhere around that range at 52 volts. You see, there's a bunch of low-voltage cells inside this box that are wired together in series where they add up to 48 volts. But you probably need more than one battery, right? So each battery needs to be connected together in parallel by connecting the positive terminals together and the negative terminals together. And that brings us to point number 2, which is to use a combiner or a bus bar to join all those positives and negatives and route them to the inverter. You'll want to use either a battery combiner box like this, which is the preferred option, or else a high amperage bus bar if meeting electrical codes is not an issue for you. Make sure that all the cables connecting each battery to the combiner are the same length so that each battery is perfectly balanced with the others. Now, if you're using a server rack with built-in bus bar, you'll want to connect your inverter cables to the opposite corners of those bus bars so that it pulls evenly from all the batteries. Number 3 is a really cool perk that you get with lithium. Unlike lead acid, each lithium battery includes a battery management system called a BMS. And this BMS protects the battery from charging too fast, overcharging, or being completely drained. It tracks the state of charge of the battery. It monitors battery temperature and protects it from damage. And it also allows the batteries to communicate with each other so they can stay balanced and also communicate with the inverter. Most batteries allow closed-loop communication where each battery talks directly to the inverter through an Ethernet cable for precise charging control. This is ideal, but if your inverter doesn't support that, you'll be running an open loop just like you were with lead acid when there's no communication happening, and the inverter is simply using the battery voltage to control the charge cycle. And that's totally fine. Just set the charging parameters manually on your inverter based on the manufacturer's specs, and you'll be good to go. Now with those charge settings in your inverter, they're going to look very different with a lithium battery than you may be used to with lead acid. You'll set a very short absorb time, typically 5 minutes or so, and you'll disable equalization, and because you never want to run an equalized charge with lithium or any sealed battery for that matter, you'll set a low float voltage, and you'll disconnect or disable the battery temperature sensor because lithium doesn't need temperature compensation like lead acid batteries do. And speaking of temperature, you do need to be aware of the biggest lithium limitation, and it has to do with temperature. Most lithium batteries can be discharged when it's as cold as 0 or 5 degrees Fahrenheit, but lithium-iron phosphate batteries should never be charged when they are below 35 degrees or so. Any decent BMS will prevent you from charging when they get that cold. A few models include built-in heaters that kick on when you charge, but as a general rule, you really should keep them above freezing whenever they're in use. On the other hand, lithium batteries won't last nearly as long if you operate them in a very hot environment. I've seen some data that suggests their lifespan at over 100 degrees Fahrenheit could be less than half what it would be at room temperature. Now, understanding how lithium behaves is just one piece of the puzzle. If you're trying to figure out the big picture of how to get started without wasting money or ending up with a system you regret, we put together a free online class that walks you through it step by step. It's all about starting small, staying smart with your budget, and building a system that works when you need it most. You can check it out at thereadylife.com/now. When removing your old forklift or lead acid batteries, you'll want to shut down your inverter and open any breakers connecting to the batteries. You'll also want to be sure to use insulated tools or at least wrap them with electrical tape so that you don't accidentally start welding your tools or your hand when you bump against two terminals. You also want to be extremely careful with the inverter cable terminals when you disconnect them because if you short them out, it could do a lot of damage. And here's a great tip. Don't just give your old batteries away to a recycling place. Try and find a scrap metal place where they'll actually pay you for the lead inside of them. Depending on the size of your battery bank, you could get a few $100s out of them potentially. If you need to dismantle your battery box to get the new ones in, that's totally fine. Lithium batteries don't need to be vented or boxed in. They just need to be protected from accidental tampering. So which lithium battery finally made us switch? We're upgrading to the Midnite Solar PowerFlo 5, and here's why. Midnite Solar is a quality brand that's been around for 20 years, almost as long as I've been off the grid. So their 10-year unlimited cycles warranty actually means something. The PowerFlo 5 is rated to at least 6,000 cycles at 80% depth of discharge. There's an integrated stackable mount where you don't need an expensive server rack. It's designed to pair perfectly with the Midnite Solar all-in-one inverter for closed-loop communications, and since it uses pylon protocol, you can closed-loop it with most modern inverters. And the price is unbeatable for what you're getting. This video was not sponsored by Midnite Solar or anyone. We bought our equipment with our own money. But I do have a link down below where you can get the best price I've found on these batteries. And what's cool is it's an affiliate link where you can say thanks for making this video without it costing you a single penny. This is actually the same company where we ordered our batteries from, and we were really happy with them. So I'm speaking from experience here. And like I said, you'll be seeing these batteries and a whole system installed in an upcoming video. So stay tuned for that video, hopefully coming pretty soon. And if you've been wondering how to protect your family from power outages, rising energy costs, or you just want to reduce your dependence on the grid, here's your next step. It's a free class called What You Can Do Now to Start Going Off the Grid. In this 1-hour class, Lisa and I will show you how to get started with backup or off-grid without overcommitting, a simple 3-step plan that grows with your budget, what to power first, and how to build a system you won't regret later. This class will help you whether you have a remote cabin deep in the woods or you're a bit closer to town and have no intention of ever going fully off-grid. We're just showing how you can do this in stages with a limited budget, and you won't want to miss it. You can register now at thereadylife.com/now. We'd love to see you there. Mittens says goodbye. Little lover girl.